on this episode of Game Changers.
Is there any point at which you feel frustrated about how things are?
I don't really view my prosthetic as a disadvantage to anything I do.
The game is always changing. In this series, we take a look at those who are changing the sports world on and off the field. I'm your host, Armin Amirian, and this is T-Mobile's Game Changers.
Hi, I'm Armin Amirian, and I'm here in Fort Worth, Texas, hanging out with one of the most elite cross-country teams in the nation, the South Lake Carroll Dragons. And I'm here specifically to hang out with one Chris Tracht, a single-leg amputee who's doing what he can to be the best of the best.
Adaptive athletes are a growing part of the competitive sports landscape. These athletes run the same races as non-adaptive athletes and compete at a very high level. But while there are plenty of adaptive athletes on the track, Chris is one of the few on the cross-country course. After just barely missing a Paralympic record as a freshman on the track, Chris is entering his sophomore year looking to push his limits even further.
Looks like their workout's over, and now is my chance to meet Chris, so let's go.
I thought Henry was doing 8.
Chris, what's up, man? Armin.
What's up? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. How'd that run go?
It was good. Nice recovery run.
So, Chris, tell me about the leg, man.
So when I was born without my fibula. At 9 months, I had 3 toes. So I got those amputated. Then I got my first prosthetic. And then in 4th grade, I got my first running leg like this one. And now this is my 3rd or 4th one, I think. It's a lot better to run in one of these than the regular walking leg, which I use day to day.
What's the process of getting it on and getting ready to practice or race?
Really, I just have one sock that I put on and then a liner that goes over that. It's kind of like a foam, and then that just slides into the carbon fiber socket.
So are there any sort of like challenges or obstacles racing in cross country as an amputee versus like running on a track?
It's not like a big deal, but it's just kind of like the uneven surfaces. It just kind of throws me off because I don't really have like an ankle to like conform to the environment.
Do you know of any other amputees that are doing cross country races?
I mean, I know some running track, but as for cross country, I don't really know any of them.
As far as Chris knows, he's the only single amputee gunning for the win on the competitive high school cross-country circuit. It takes a rare person to do something that nobody else has done, and this makes him a game changer. Getting a chance to watch Chris train and chat with him about his life was awesome. However, he's an elite athlete and he competes. I am here tonight at the Friday Night Hawk invite to watch him do just that. But before the race started,
Hey.
How's it going, Armin? I had a chance to sit down with Chris's mother to learn more about him.
What was your reaction like when Christopher was born?
So first of all, we didn't know if we were having a boy or girl, so I was surprised that it was a boy. But then the doctor pointed out that he had been born with a birth defect.
So you guys didn't know, right? So it was a surprise to you?
It was a surprise, a complete surprise. 2 weeks later, we met with a round of doctors. They gave us 2 options, and one was reconstructive surgery for many years throughout his even young adult life. And the second option was amputation at 9 months, and then they would fit him with a prosthesis. As far as my husband and I are concerned, our first thought was, well, we're going to do anything to save his foot. But the doctor that would have done the reconstruction, he said, your son is an in-between, and if it was my son, I would do the amputation.
Wow.
And that, for me, solidified everything. The hardest thing about that whole process was making that decision for someone else. It was very emotional, but we knew when the surgery came around that we had made the right decision. What's important is that he will walk and run and be normal instead of being in a hospital for half his life.
It's obvious to me that Chris's parents have dealt with his disability with grace and poise. And after speaking with Chris's mom, it's pretty clear where he gets his inspiration. Is there any point at which you feel frustrated about how things are?
Not really. I mean, I don't really view my prosthetic as a disadvantage to really anything I do.
This is just a really big motivator for a lot of guys, just to remember that there really are no excuses, and so it just helps the rest of us remember that if he can do it, there's no reason we can't.
He's just one of the boys too, so I mean, he's a super hard worker, he's motivated, he motivates us every day, so it's good to have him.
What have you learned about yourself competing at one of the most elite cross-country schools in the nation?
I've learned that I'm really no different from anyone else, and that's kind of how my team views me too. They don't really treat me any different. I go out there, do the same workouts, just really see myself side by side with them.
I got a chance to watch Chris train, compete, and I even got a chance to talk to his mom. And what really struck me is how humble he is. He's competitive, he's driven, he's an incredible athlete. But what Chris Tracht taught me is there's no room for excuses. Join us next time for another episode of T-Mobile's Game Changers.